So, I subjected myself to the absolute torture of Velma, the first 2 episodes at least. This was, unironically, the worst opener to a series that I've yet to see. That can change in the future, but for now. I am seriously asking who this was made for, though. It opens up trying to be self-aware as a joke, but it's so poorly executed I can't even understand how anyone thought it was a good idea. So, the opening few minutes on the first episode, we have Daphne going to the communal girls' showers and talking about how pilot episodes open up with lots of sex and nudity that you never see in the rest of the series. All while we're literally watching naked high school girls wash themselves in the shower. Look, I am an anime fan. I like fan service from time to time. I get it. But this is so forced as a commentary that it had the same comedic effect as your grandma having a stroke. I couldn't laugh. I could only feel more and more depressed. I like when smart commentary is made on a subject, but when that subject is a self-aware jab as professionally handled as a crackhead with a needle, it's just painful. I want to do some research on better commentaries made in films in a later day, so we're just going to put a pin in that for now. But cut a little later to the first episode, and Velma is the most self-absorbed person you could ever meet. I wish this wasn't the case, but it really is. Velma acts like the main protagonist, and the show tries to make jokes out of this, but it falls so flat that I look like Daphne's moms from a joke scene they tried to pull off. A later scene that had potential, and was killed by the writers as mercilessly as a group of murder hobos, was when Velma found Fred behind a dumpster dealing with his daddy and masculinity issues. Fred even drops a hint that you might have an abusive father, asking if Velma's mother puts out her cigars on her. It's painful when someone does that with a cigarette, worse with a cigar, but with that hint dropped, Velma then goes into talking about her backstory like the edgy rogue from your D&D group that no one cares about. Yeah, you're Shadow the Hedgehog's even eviler brother, and it's your original OC. No one's gonna steal it because nobody could care less if we tried about these edgelords from Tumblr. And sadly, that's how Velma acts. She sees herself as the protagonist and decides to tell everybody about herself without paying attention or listening to anybody else. Honestly, it's insufferable to a few points. And after all of that, Fred just straight up says, "Wow. After hearing that, I not only feel emotionally hooked, I understand the stakes of your journey, Velma." That is like a direct quote. Like, did an AI write the script? This is absolute garbage. Also, Shaggy hates drugs. That's all I'm going to say. Shaggy is pretty smart, though, actually. It's kind of refreshing. He works as, the president of the school newspaper or something. I don't know. He has a journalist and a camera. But he's into Velma, and she doesn't like him. Oh, wait. Did I say Shaggy? Sorry, I meant Norville. Later, Velma has a hallucination, and her stepmom handles the problem better than her dad. And her dad says, "Yeah, your mom left us." And Velma tries not to hear that, but then reflects on the previous scenarios and the montage she showed Fred when she was a child. But now with Velma making her mother's life hard, and starting that sequence is Velma using a garden hose to accidentally get her mom's cigarette to fly into her eye, which then spends the rest of the montage falling out of its socket. Now, side note, I have a roommate who worked at a funeral home, and a poke from a wet cigarette is not enough to cause an eye to fall out like that. There's some muscles that hold the eye in the socket and restrict its movements, but continuing on. Oh gosh, they put a Discord mod into the series, and Fred cuts his leg off? What? Ugh. At one point, Daphne is attacking Fred for being insecure about his body and not wanting to have sex, which, how is this a bad thing? Why is she attacking him for this? This only makes Daphne look like an abusive asshole. Like, what? Why? If no means no, then I'm not ready. Shouldn't that mean something similar? Am I supposed to love or hate Daphne at this point? Because I'm indifferent, but leaning towards hating her with how this is being handled. And the fake trauma they gave Velma is resolved like it's no longer a thing for like 5 minutes, and then it comes back and they make a WebMD joke. Fred gets shot in the legs and is framed for the first girl's death, and Velma makes fun of Norville for confessing his love to her. Or confessing that he likes her. Yeah, she put him in the little brother zone. So, poor dude. At this point, I need to ask what Velma's dealing with as a tangent, because when this first started, I assumed this would be something similar to a panic attack situation, like anxiety issues or PTSD. But the problem is, her hallucinations are apparently so strong, they can kill her. Velma first says this, and no one even cares. I don't think anybody in the audience even cared. I didn't care. But when her stepmom has to literally beat her chest like a psychopath giving CPR to bring her back from the edge, I'm more concerned at the fact that her father apparently never cared, paid attention, or thought this was an actual problem. Like, what, again, where is the writing in this? And after that, she never gets this bad again after her mother has to save her from, her stepmom has to save her from dying in the first 2 episodes. But again, I'm really confused at what exactly it is she's suffering from. At this point, I'm just assuming an AI wrote it as Velma's mom drugged her somehow, and that drug makes Velma's panic attacks even more deadly, or some garbage explanation like that. The gravity of the situation never feels real, just because this series already has made fun of Velma acting like the main character. So now with Velma having these odd episodes that threaten to kill her if left unchecked, the visuals and everything else, and how the story is made fun of her for acting like a main character, it just feels fake. It doesn't feel like there's any gravity to it. But these are the Great Value brand mystery gang, so normally everything that happens is because of people trying to commit insurance fraud or tax evasion. But with murder and Velma having these very paranormal feeling psychic attacks, it never really feels like it has any weight to it. It just, I don't know. Anyways, moving on. Going into episode 2, Velma opens the episode unironically saying, "Velma Dinkley always knows the ugly truth." As if in the first episode, she hadn't spent years gaslighting herself thinking into believing she was an angel and that her mother left because she wanted to solve another mystery, instead of just Velma being a problem child to an extent, because apparently nobody knew how to parent or spend time with their daughter. But I don't know. Or she also thought that Norville was making a joke when he confessed to her. Like, again, I am convinced this is written by an AI. But in all fairness, after all of this, I will give leeway to the fact that in episode 2, Norville is actually introduced in a better light because he's a streamer who talks about snacks from around the world. Unironically, I do like this idea for the character in general, even though I would assume food reviews and mukbangs are better as YouTube videos and not so much as a stream, but again, what do I know? I'm not very up to date with everything. But it's fitting for the character to a degree that I actually think this is an interesting idea, and I really would like to see this happen in the future. Also, unsurprisingly, stoners love his snack show. And later on, there's a bunch of lesbian baiting between Daphne and Velma. If it wasn't so forced, I would actually be for it, because I'm not against the gang having romantic ties to other people or being part of the community. It's just, this episode went from Daphne and Velma yelling and hating each other, Velma screwing up Daphne selling drugs and almost getting caught by her cop parents, and then all of a sudden now Velma is laying on top of Daphne after hiding at a dumpster, and they're just looking at each other. Look, the fact that Hallmark movies take more time to flesh out people's personalities better than this is hilarious and also sad, because this show rushes to romance faster than an 11-year-old's gay fanfiction about One Direction. And as this is a cartoon, there's the obligatory Fred having court case problems as cartoonish. Makeup and fake eyelashes make him look like Hitler after the rain ruins his makeup for a cheap gag at one point, with a self-insert commentary about how we compare everything to Hitler. And standing on a medium rare steak holding a knife made him look like a killer in court. I know it's January, but send me back. The future still sucks, man. Send me back to 2019. And the episode 2 ends with Velma having another oddly paranormal feeling heart attack that results in Daphne saving Velma by kissing her. Then they start making out, and Norville has a few decent lines to end the episode. And a scene halfway through the credits with Fred in jail. All in all, I sailed the 7 seas, and I still want my money back for the pennies that watching the show will go to my power bill. It's truly a unique experience of a bad first 2 episodes because there's bad writing, but then there's writing that is worse than the meme of an AI that wrote a Christmas movie after reading hundreds of Hallmark movie scripts. This cartoon feels just as robotic as an early 1965 space Tinker toy, and that's an insult to the toys. Velma has a main character syndrome that the show tries to mock, but it falls like a piece of paper. It goes back and forth, you think it might do something interesting, but just slowly falls until it touches the ground. Nothing exciting, nothing new, and just feel like it was written by an AI. The dialogue in these first few episodes lacks any soul. The voice actors did their best, and I think Fred from the Mystery Incorporated series plays the series of Fred's father, or at least it sounds very similar in that case, but again, the words don't really mix well. Fred alludes to the idea that his father puts out his cigars on him, but we never see that, nor does it look like Fred's father in the series would actually do that. Fred is so pampered and so babied as a child that the dude can't do anything by himself. So if his father is that willing to pamper him, I doubt he would maliciously put out his cigar on him. Accidentally, I could see it, but even so, the lines don't match up from the first episode and how later episodes portray him. Also, as many have pointed out, the plot revolves around 2 murders and Fred being an underdeveloped, small dick white boy. Look, as a Native American, I love making fun of white people, but this felt more like an attack on someone specific from the AI writer's experience than a real character or commentary. It feels like the soulless white man bad that a few of my aunts and uncles have, but it never properly gives a reason to hate or demonize the bad white man. It just makes them pathetic, and then we're supposed to act like the white man is the cause of all problems? Really? That kind of a pathetic loser can cause problems? I have trouble thinking a human adult could write this poorly, which is why I think this was an AI script and someone was trying to save money by not hiring writers. Because, again, if an actual adult wrote this and feels proud, what the actual hell are you doing with your life? You need to take some creative writing courses from middle schools, because holy crap. However, I'm a degenerate, no one cares, and I hope you have a good day.